That night, I believed I was the happiest woman in the world. The sizzle of a ribeye steak in a cast-iron skillet, its scent mingling with the woodsy aroma of rosemary and the rich bouquet of a Napa Cabernet breathing in a crystal. I smiled, my hands gently setting two pristine white porcelain plates on the dining table, already draped in a cream-colored linen cloth and lit by two flickering candles. The candlelight danced, casting my shadow onto the wall behind me, a silhouette of anticipation, of love, and of a happiness I thought would last forever. Today was a special day. Ethan, my husband, the man I had loved with all the passion of my youth and bet my entire life on, had finally reaped the rewards of his labor. He had called me that afternoon. Hearing his news, I was happier than if it had been my own success. I took the afternoon off from work, rushing through Whole Foods and specialty import shops to find the best cut of dry-aged beef and the most exquisite bottle of French wine. I wanted to prepare a celebratory dinner for him by hand, one more memorable than any five-star restaurant could offer. It had been 5 years since I decided to give up my promising career, a plaisin à l'avers, idyllic à l'avers. Watching him climb from a junior sales associate, step by step, to regional manager, and now, to the brink of becoming a project director, I felt every sacrifice I had made was worthwhile. I knew that behind his rise was not just his own effort, but also the connections from my family that I had subtly woven for him. There were business plans I had stayed up all night to perfect for him, and even my own savings that had quietly covered the shortfalls from his I glanced at the clock. It was past 7 p.m. Ethan should be home soon. I poured the wine, its deep red liquid swirling in the glass, like the color of our burning love. I suddenly thought of William, Ethan's best friend, his brother-in-arms. It was Will who had gotten Ethan the job at this company. Will was brilliant, kind, and the only son of Mr. Sterling, the company's largest investor and chairman of the board. Their friendship was so close, it sometimes made me envious. They could share everything. I thought to myself that I had to text Will and Chloe later to share the good news. They would surely be thrilled for us. Just then, my phone on the table rang. It was Ethan. I answered cheerfully, my voice a little playful. "Where are you?" "Everything's ready. I'm just waiting for the new director to start the party." The line was silent for a few seconds. Then Ethan's voice came through, sounding slightly different, more rushed than usual. "Maya, honey, I'm so sorry, but I don't think I can make it home for dig." His voice was as gentle as ever, yet I felt a cold distance in it. I tried to suppress a sigh, forcing a smile into my voice. "Oh, that's okay. Work is more important. Drive safe, and please don't drink too much. I know, you're the best. I've got to go." He spoke quickly and hung up, not giving me a chance to say another word. I put the phone down, staring at the sputtering candles and the magnificent meal that was slowly growing cold. A wave of disappointment and loneliness washed over me. Work again, partners. I sat alone at the table, with no appetite to eat. Looking at the dishes I had poured my heart into, an idea suddenly struck me. What if I brought it to him at the office? He'd surely be hungry working late. A warm, unexpected surprise might give him an extra boost of motivation. No sooner said than done. I quickly packed the steak, creamy mashed potatoes, and salad into insulated containers, not forgetting the wine and 2 crystal glasses. I wanted to create a romantic escape for him right in his sterile office. I drove out of our luxury apartment complex, my mood lifted with renewed excitement. The route to his company was familiar down to every tree and streetlight. The office tower was a beacon of light in the night. I smiled, picturing Ethan's surprised and touched expression when he saw me. But as my car turned into the parking garage, I suddenly stopped. Ethan's car wasn't there. I frowned, a flicker of worry rising. Did he take a car with the partners? Or was the meeting somewhere else? I was about to call him but stopped myself. I didn't want to disturb him during an important discussion. I parked the car and decided to go up to his office to wait. But as I walked past the small, dimly lit service road behind the building, a familiar sight caught my eye, and my entire body froze. Tucked away in the dark, my heart began to pound erratically. Why would he park here instead of in the garage? Why choose such a dark, secluded spot? A terrible premonition crept through my veins. Trembling, I took one step at a time, trying not to make a sound as I approached the car. The closer I got, the more it felt like someone was squeezing my heart. The interior lights were off, but in the faint glow from a distant streetlight, I could make out two silhouettes inside. The driver's seat was fully reclined. A man and a woman were entwined. That male figure, those broad, strong shoulders, I could never mistake them. It was Ethan, my husband. And the woman, with her long, silky hair cascade. My world shattered in that instant. My feet felt rooted to the ground, unable to move. My ears were ringing, and I could hear nothing but the sound of my own heart breaking into a million pieces. I wanted to scream, to rush forward and smash the window, to drag those two miserable excuses for human beings out and confront them. But no, a sudden icy chill ran down my spine, extinguishing all the hot rage. The tears that should have been streaming down my face were suddenly dry. In their place was a terrifying calm. I didn't cause a scene. I just quietly stepped back, hiding behind the trunco. The sharp click of the shutter sounded unnaturally loud in the quiet night. I didn't just take pictures. I recorded a short video, long enough to clearly capture their disgusting actions. When I was done, without a moment's hesitation, I opened my contacts and found the most powerful number I knew. I attached all the images and the video and pressed send. 15 minutes later, my car was speeding through the night, not towards home, but aimlessly int. I pulled over by the windy bank of the Hudson River, rolling down the window to let the cold night air, heavy with moisture, rush in. I needed to be clear-headed. I would not allow myself to cry, would not allow myself to break down. The pain was still there, smoldering in my chest like a hot coal, but on top of it, a ruthless coldness was beginning to Who had I sent that evidence to? Not to William. I couldn't be so cruel as to send him those images. I, of all people, understood the pain of betrayal, and I didn't want a good friend like Will to experience it so suddenly and brutally. The person I sent it to was Mr. Sterling, Will's father. Why him? Because I knew better than anyone that Mr. Sterling was a man who valued morality and loyalty above all else. To him, skills could be taught and experience could be gained, but character was immutable. He had once told me during a family dinner that he despised two types of people in this world, those who bite the hand that feeds them and those who stab their friends in the back. Ethan, the son-in-law he had once been so fond of, had now committed BS. I sat in the car for a long time, until my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. I knew a storm was coming. I took a deep breath, started the car, and drove home. My play had just begun, and I needed to go back and prepare for the most important role of my life. I arrived home close to midnight. The house was silent and cold. As I walked in, the first thing I saw was the dining table, still set exactly as I had left it. The two candles had burned almost completely down, leaving long trails of wax on the holders, like frozen tears. I no longer felt heartbroken. I calmly cleared everything away. I poured the expensive bottle of wine down the sink, tea. Just as I finished cleaning, I heard the familiar sound of a car at the gate. Ethan was home. I quickly went upstairs, changed into a nightgown, got into bed, and pretended to be fast asleep. I heard him open the door softly, tiptoeing into the room. He went into the bathroom, the sound of running water trickling out. A moment later, he emerged, smelling of our familiar body wash, but mixed with it was the scent of a strange woman's. Sleep well, my love. Tomorrow is going to be an amazing day. I managed to read the words as he carelessly angled the screen. Tomorrow is going to be an amazing day? I sneered silently in the darkness. Yes, it will be amazing. But not for you, my dear husband. He put the phone down and turned to hug me from behind. His embrace was familiar, but now it made my skin crawl with disgust. He whispered in my ear, his voice full of feigned remorse. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The morning sun streamed through the window, but it couldn't dispel the chill in the room. Ethan was still sound asleep, his face peaceful, without a trace of guilt. Looking at him, I no longer felt any love. I quietly slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes had dark circles from a sleepless night, but my gaze was sharper and more determined than ever. Maya, I told myself, you have to act. You have to put on the performance of a lifetime. You cannot show a single crack. I chose an elegant cream-colored house dress, put my hair up in a neat bun, and applied light makeup to hide my fatigue. I wanted to present the image of a gentle, forgiving wife, one who was completely oblivious to the impending storm. I went down to the kitchen and started preparing breakfast. As I was setting the table, Ethan came downstairs. He was dressed in an impeccable suit, his tie perfectly knotted, his hair slicked back with gel. He looked every bit the part of a soon-to-be-appointed director. "Morning, my love." He came over, wrapped his arms around me from behind, and kissed my cheek. His kiss felt cold and slippery against my skin, like a snake. I fought the urge to recoil in disgust and turned to smile at him. "Good morning. You're up early. I've made breakfast. Today's a big day. You need to eat well to have strength for the meeting." "Absolutely." He took my hand, his eyes full of fake promises. "Once I'm director, I'll take you on a trip to Europe to make up for all your hard work." I pulled my hand back, smiling. We sat across from each other, performing a flawless play of a happy marriage. He played the part of the loving, ambitious husband. I played the part of the devoted, understanding wife. The only difference was that I knew everything, and I knew that he knew nothing. After breakfast, Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie one last time. He turned to me, his face brimming with confidence. "Well, I'm off. You wait here for my good news." "Okay, drive safely." I walked him to the door, even helping him brush an imaginary speck of dust off his shoulder. The moment the door closed, the smile on my face vanished. I leaned against the door, letting out a long breath. The morning, I didn't go to work. I called my boss and took the day off, saying my husband had an important event and I wanted to be home to wait for the news. I sat on the sofa, turned on the TV but didn't watch it. My mind was elsewhere, in that meeting room on the top floor of that skyscraper. I imagined Ethan walking in, full of excitement and confidence. He would think he was being called in to receive his promotion. He would never suspect that what awaited him was not the director's chair, but a death sentence for his career. I remembered the early days of our love. Ethan was just a small-town boy who had come to T Place, Blake ATT Place. My thoughts. I hung up, a bitter feeling rising in my chest. Poor Will. He was still worried about his best friend, completely unaware that said friend was betraying him in the most profound way possible. This betrayal didn't just kill my love, it killed a beau. I looked at the clock. It was almost noon. The meeting should be ending soon. I didn't know what would happen next, how Ethan would react when he learned the truth. But I knew one thing for sure. The storm had just begun, and when it passed, nothing would be the same. That whole morning I was on pins and needles, even though I had prepared myself mentally, and I was certain Mr. Sterling would never let something so egregious slide. I couldn't escape the feeling of suspense. I paced back and forth, glancing at my phone every few minutes, waiting for a call, a text, any sign that the curtain had fallen on the play. But there was nothing. The silence only heightened the tension. I tried to keep myself busy. Around 1 p.m., as I was pacing anxiously, the familiar sound of a car stopped at the gate. My heart felt like it would leap out of my chest. He was back. I rushed to the window, carefully parting the curtains to look down. The sleek, black Mercedes, but this was not the Ethan I knew. The confident, arrogant swagger of a successful man was gone. The man before me looked like he had aged 10 years. The designer suit he had worn this morning was now wrinkled, his tie loosened and askew. His hair, always so meticulously styled, was a mess. But what stunned me the most was his face. It was ashen, his eyes hollow and dazed. He walked like a drunkard. He slammed the car door shut with a dry, angry thud, then leaned against the vehicle, running both hands through his hair, a look of utter disbelief and confusion on his face. He stood there for a long time, not coming. After a while, Ethan finally stumbled into the house. He didn't look at me, walking straight to the bar cart, pouring a glass of whiskey and downing it in one gulp. He then hurled the empty glass to the floor. The sound of shattering glass was jarring, echoing through the silent house. "Damn it! Damn it!" He roared like a wounded animal, then collapsed onto the sofa, burying his face in his hands. I walked over and sat in the armchair opposite him. I spoke softly, a tone I had practiced all morning. "What's wrong? Did T? A trap? I don't understand." I feigned confusion, blinking my eyes. "You don't understand." He jumped up, pacing the living room like a caged animal. This morning, when I walked into that meeting, I thought I was getting the promotion. But no, him, that old man, he didn't say a word about it. He just threw a file at me, saying the Southside Urban Development Project, the biggest one I'm leading, needs a complete audit. A complete audit, do you understand? He paused, breathing heavily, then continued. He said someone reported that I've been engaging in unethical practices, showing signs of self-dealing. Someone stabbed me in the back, Maya. Someone inside the company, someone who knows me very well, deliberately framed me. He looked at me, his eyes searching. "You were home all day. Did you hear anything?" I shook my head, my face a mask of worry and sympathy. Oh my God, how could that happen? Who would do such a despicable thing? I haven't heard anything at all. Or maybe there's been some kind of misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? "There's no misunderstanding," he insisted. This was a C. I stood up and walked over to him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "Don't get worked up. We'll figure this out. I believe you're innocent. It must just be a misunderstanding. Everything will be cleared up." My comforting words seemed to have some effect. He turned and hugged me, burying his face in my shoulder like a child. "You're the only one who understands me, Maya. I really didn't do anything wrong." I patted his back gently, a cold smile forming on my lips. Didn't do anything wrong? He was still so confident. His arrogance was so ingrained. That too? Just then, Ethan's phone rang. He let go of me and pulled it from his pocket. When he saw the caller's name, his expression changed again. It was Chloe. He quickly walked out to the balcony, sliding the glass door shut before answering. Though he tried to speak quietly, through the glass I could clearly see the panic on his face. "What did you say? Your father called you in for an emergency family meeting too? Oh God, could it be? Could he know something?" he stammered. I stood in the living room, arms crossed, silently watching the drama unfold. The storm was starting to spread. It wasn't just crashing down on him, but on his little lover as well. I wondered, when faced with pressure from her own family, would their so-called love remain strong, or would it shatter like the whiskey glass on the floor? Everything seemed to be happening faster and more dramatically than I had ever imagined. Watching Ethan's panicked state as he spoke to his mistress, I knew my first blow had hit its mark. But this was only the beginning. A real war cannot be fought alone. I needed an ally, someone who could not only give me advice but also provide legal support. Vanessa was nothing like me. She wasn't a dreamer, not a romantic. She was a woman of pure reason. Even back in school, she knew her path was to become a top lawyer specializing in family law. She said she wanted to use her knowledge to protect vulnerable women, those who were hurt in their own marriages. After graduation, she made that dream a reality. Vanessa was now the head of a well-known law firm in Manhattan, sharp, brilliant, and fiercely loyal. I knew only she could help me in this situation. After Ethan hastily left the house, claiming he had urgent matters to attend to, I immediately called Vanessa. Hearing my voice, Sensing the change in my tone, Vanessa dropped the banter. "What's wrong? Talk to me. You don't sound okay. Can we meet? This isn't something I can talk about over the phone." "Sure. Come to my office. I'll wait." Vanessa's office was on the top floor of a skyscraper in the financial district. The spacious room was minimalist yet elegant, with a massive glass window overlooking the entire city. I took a deep breath and began to speak. I told her everything, holding nothing back. From my quiet sacrifices for Ethan's career to the heart-stopping moment I saw him and Chloe in that car. I even told her about my plan for revenge, about sending the video to Mr. Sterling. The more I spoke, the harder Vanessa's expression became. She didn't interrupt, just listened silently, her hands clenched into tight fists. When I finished, she didn't curse, didn't offer condole. "You don't remember?" Vanessa frowned. "Your birthday last year, when we all went out for karaoke. While you and Will were singing a duet, I happened to see Ethan and Chloe looking at each other. That look, it wasn't the look of a brother-in-law looking at his friend's wife. It was the look of two people sharing a secret. I felt something was off then, but I had no proof. I was afraid if I said something, you'd think I was being paranoid." I was stunned. So I wasn't the only one being deceived. People around me had no... "Forget it. What's past is past." Vanessa took my hand, her eyes resolute. "Now is not the time for grief. You did the right thing, Maya. Hitting his career was the most painful blow. But it's not enough." She stood up and paced the room, the picture of a lawyer analyzing a case. "This isn't just about an affair. Think about it. Ethan climbed the ladder that fast. Besides your help, could there have been another way? William, his best friend, the chairman's son. Chloe, Will's wife. This love triangle, it might not just be about sex. It could also be about money." Vanessa's words. "I suspect Ethan used his relationship with Will and Chloe for personal gain, maybe even embezzling company funds," Vanessa said, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. "That Chloe is no saint. She looks gentle and content, but I see a hidden ambition in her. She married Will, a rich kid, but Will is too gentle, not very ambitious. Maybe she got bored. She found Ethan, someone with ambition, with a ruthlessness that matched her own. They colluded. One wants money, the other wants power. It makes perfect sense." Vanessa's analysis was a whack. "Gather evidence," Vanessa replied curtly. "We need to know exactly what they've done. Do you have access to his personal computer at home?" I nodded. "The password is my birthday." "Good. Tonight, go home and find a way to copy all the data from his computer, especially Excel files and work-related emails. Don't leave any traces," Vanessa instructed. "As for Chloe, I'll have..." "Do you think we're going too far?" I hesitated. "Once you start, you have to see it through to the end. Do you want him to just lose his job, or do you want him to pay for everything he's done? Utterly ruined, with no way to ever get back up." Vanessa's eyes bored into mine. I fell silent. I knew the answer. This betrayal wasn't just an emotional wound, it was a humiliation, a trampling of everything I had sacrificed. I could not forgive it. "I understand," I said, my voice firm. "I'll do as you say." Leaving Vanessa's office, my mind was no longer in turmoil. I had a clear plan, a trustworthy ally. I wouldn't just watch this storm, I would be the one to direct it. And I would make sure that when it passed, the one swept away would be Ethan and his lover. That evening, I returned home in a completely different state of mind. The pain and anticipation were gone, replaced by a cold calm and resolve. Ethan wasn't home yet. Perhaps he was still out there, trying to figure out who H1119. I went straight to the study where his personal computer was. My heart beat a little faster as I typed in the familiar password, my birthday. The screen lit up, greeting me with our wedding photo as the wallpaper. Looking at my own happy smile in the picture, I found it deeply ironic. Following Vanessa's instructions, I plugged in a USB drive I had prepared and began copying all the data. While waiting, I started exploring the folders. Everything was organized neatly, methodically, just like Ethan. But that very neatness concealed filthy secrets. I opened a folder named South. Skimming through the numbers, my experience as an architect allowed me to quickly spot irregularities. Many items had their costs inflated to an absurd degree. For example, the cost for basic construction materials was 30% higher than the market rate. The cost for design consultation, an item that shouldn't have been necessary as the company had its own team, was a massive sum. I traced the contract codes to the supplier companies. Most were unfamiliar names, shell corporations set up solely to legitimize the flow of money. Vanessa was RP now. When the copy process was complete, I carefully removed the USB drive and erased all traces of my activity on the computer. I held the USB drive in my hand, feeling its weight. This wasn't just evidence of Ethan. Just as I put the USB away, I heard Ethan's car pull up. I quickly returned to the living room, sat on the sofa, and picked up a magazine pretending to read. Ethan walked in, reeking of alcohol. He looked even more pathetic than he had that afternoon. His suit jacket was gone, leaving a wrinkled white shirt with the top 2 buttons undone. He said nothing, stumbling to the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water, and chugging it down. "Where have you been? You've been drinking again?" I asked, my tone feigning concern. He didn't answer, just threw the empty bottle into the recycle. "Yes, I was worried about you, so I didn't go anywhere," I replied without blinking. "You didn't call anyone? Like William?" His question made my heart jump. Had he started to suspect me? I forced myself to remain calm. Why would I call Will? What would I call him for? Nothing. He shook his head, seeming to dismiss his own suspicion. Just asking. He sighed, leaning his head back against the chair. "I met with everyone today who could have possibly done this, but nobody confessed. Everyone acted innocent. What about Chloe?" I blurted out, a deliberately loaded question. "Did you check in with her? I'm sure she's worried about Will and her family's company." Hearing Chloe's name, Ethan flinched slightly. He glanced at me, his eyes a little unnatural. I did call her. She doesn't know anything either. She said her father, Mr. Sterling, has been stone-faced all day, not saying a word. The atmosphere at their house is really tense. He's probably stressed about this too." He was lying again, but I didn't expose him. I just nodded sympathetically. That poor couple. I'm sure they're being affected by. Our conversation ended there. He was too tired to say more, and I had no desire to continue the act. That night, we slept in the same bed but in different worlds. I could feel his restlessness, his anxiety. He kept sighing, tossing, and turning. He was probably afraid for his career, afraid of being exposed, and perhaps he was also afraid for his illicit relationship. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Vanessa had already sent people to start monitoring Chloe. The next morning, while I was at my old firm, clearing out the last of my personal belongings, Vanessa called me. "Maya, I've got something big." Her voice was Chloe. "Exactly," Vanessa confirmed. "The PI's got pictures." They sat in a very secluded corner, looking extremely stressed. They talked for about an hour, then Chloe started crying. Ethan had to comfort her, hugging her. After that, they left together, not to go home, but to a nearby hotel. Every word from Vanessa was like a hammer blow to my chest. Even though I knew the truth, hearing it laid out so plainly and crudely still caused a pang of people to my chest. "I've sent you the pictures and video," Vanessa continued. "Undeniable proof of the affair. But more importantly, the content of their conversation. The PIs managed to plant a listening device at their table. Listen to it, and you'll see. The plot is even thicker than you thought." I hung up and quickly opened my email. The recording quality was quite good. Ethan and Chloe's voices were clear. They weren't just discussing Ethan's situation at work. They were planning something else, something far more Maybe, Chloe's voice trembled in the recording. "We should just tell Will the truth. Tell him that you and I are really in love, and ask for his forgiveness so we can be together." "Are you crazy?" Ethan's voice snapped. "Telling him now is suicide. You think Will is going to forgive us? And your father? He'd kill me. There's only one way out of this now. We have to make everyone believe that William is the one with the problem." A vile plan began to take shape, and as I listened to the end, I shuddered at their wickedness. We have to make everyone believe that William is the one with the problem. That sentence, their plan? In the recording, they discussed creating fake evidence to show that William was living an unhealthy lifestyle, gambling, even having an affair with another woman. They wanted to turn Will from a pitiful victim into a guilty party, a terrible husband. That way, Chloe's desire for a divorce would see. Their cruelty made me sick to my stomach. They weren't just trampling on my love. They were plotting to destroy an innocent person's life. I could not let that happen. I had to protect Will, but how? If I told him the truth now, he would surely not believe me. He trusted his friend too much. I needed a different plan, a way for him to discover the true faces of the people. I called Vanessa and told her about Ethan and Chloe's new scheme. Vanessa was furious, a match made in hell, a scumbag and a snake. If they get together, it's just trash finding trash, she cursed for a while before calming down. What are you going to do? I have to let Will know, I said, but not now. I need the right moment. And that moment arrived sooner than I expected. That afternoon, while I was at home, William suddenly called me. His voice on the other end of the line was sad and weary. Maya, are you free? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? I need to talk to someone. I was a little. We met at a quiet garden cafe. Will, whose handsome, carefree face usually exuded charm, was now etched with worry. He looked thinner. Thanks for coming, he said, his voice hoarse. I've been feeling so lost lately and didn't know who to talk to. Ethan's swamped with his company issues, and Chloe, she's been acting so strange. Strange how? I asked, trying to keep my expression naturally concerned. She keeps avoiding me, Will sighed. When she comes home at night, she says she's tired and goes to bed early. If I try to talk, she gets irritable. Her phone is always with her, and, listening to Will's words, my heart ached for him. He was a kind, gentle man, suffering from the deception of the two people closest to him. I wanted to scream the truth at him, but I knew it would only cause him more shock and pain. I needed to guide him gently. Maybe Chloe's just going through something, I said carefully. You know how women can be. Our moods can be unpredictable. Or maybe it's pressure from work? I'm sure your father is just worried about you, I said, silently thanking Mr. Sterling. He was trying to protect his son in his own way. Our conversation lasted nearly 2 hours. Will poured out all his frustrations. He was worried about his wife, his family, and even his best F.ace and F.com. Just before we left, I casually brought something up. Oh, Will, by the way, I heard Ethan is having some financial difficulties, is that right? Yeah, Will nodded. Someone's playing dirty, so his project is on hold. I'm trying to find a way to help him. I hope he gets through it soon, I said, then paused before continuing. It's just a little strange. A few days ago I happened to run into Chloe at the mall. I saw her buying a new designer handbag. Looked very expensive. It just struck me as odd that I said it nonchalantly, as if it were just idle gossip. But I knew that every word was a seed of doubt I had planted in Will's mind. A husband might not notice small changes in his wife, but when those changes involve money and unusual luxury purchases, he would definitely start to think. Will froze for a moment at my words. He didn't say anything, just nodded goodbye and left. But I saw that his eyes no longer held just sadness. There was now a hint of, in the meantime, I would continue preparing my own act. I would not let that adulterous pair carry out their filthy scheme. I would strike first, and my blow would be even more ruthless than theirs. While waiting for the seeds of doubt in William's mind to sprout, I knew I couldn't sit idle. This war wasn't being fought on a single front. If I only focused on exposing Ethan and Chloe, I would forever be just a betrayed wife seeking justice. I didn't want that. I wanted my life, Basso. I decided it was time for my comeback. Time to return to my true self, a talented and passionate architect. I called Professor Miller, my old and deeply respected mentor from Columbia. He was a giant in the field of architecture, the lead on many major projects. He sounded delighted to hear from me. Maya, where have you been all these years? I thought you'd run off and settled into domestic lie. I'm sorry, Professor, I said, a note of regret in my voice. I had some personal matters to attend to, but I want to get back to work now. I was wondering if you had any projects where you might have a place for me. Excellent! Professor Miller's voice boomed through the phone. It would be a crime to let a talent like yours go to waste. As a matter of fact, we have something right now. A new mixed-use commercial and resort complex in Miami. It's a massive, challenging project that demands fresh, creative thinking. I'm looking for a lead architect with an innovative visio, Bassam Lost. My heart hammered in my chest. This wasn't just an opportunity, it was a dream. A project of this scale was what every architect aspired to. Yes, Professor. I'm very interested. I'd love the chance to prove myself. Good. Come by my office tomorrow and we'll discuss the details. I have faith you'll do great things." That conversation with Professor Miller was like a breath of fresh air in my suffocating life. It reignited the flame of passion that had been temporarily smothered. I realized that a woman's worth isn't defined by whether she can keep her hus. The next day, I went to Professor Miller's office. I presented my ideas for the project, the knowledge and design philosophies I had accumulated over the years. They had been buried, but they were never lost, just waiting for a chance to erupt. Professor Miller was extremely pleased with my initial sketches. He officially offered me the position of lead architect for the project. News of my return spread quickly through the architectural community. Many were surprised, but mo common tales of Kreised, news of my return spread quickly through the architectural community. Of course, word of my comeback reached Ethan. He came home that evening with an indescribable expression. He was no longer panicked like the past few days, but he wasn't happy either. Perhaps he had temporarily resolved some of his troubles at work, or perhaps he was just trying to appear calm. "I hear you took a new project in Miami," he asked, his tone interrogative. "Yes, a project with Professor Miller," I replied, my eyes still fixed on the blueprints on my laptop. "Why didn't—" I looked up at him, my gaze cold. "The family? Aren't you the one who's constantly meeting partners late into the night? I think I have a right to my own career, don't you? Besides, the money I earn will also be for this family." My words left Ethan speechless. He couldn't find a reason to object, but his chauvinism and need for control were deeply ingrained. He started to get agitated. "You've changed so much. You're not like you used to be. People change, Ethan," I retorted. "I can't live in your shadow forever. I need my own life." "Your own life? Or have you found another man and are just looking for an excuse to run around?" He spat, a venomous and baseless accusation. I laughed, a sound full of scorn. "You should take a good look in the mirror before you say that to anyone, Ethan." With that, I refused to argue with him further. I closed my laptop, walked straight into the bedroom, and locked the door. I didn't want to waste another second on that man. Lying in bed, I didn't. My comeback on the career front was not just about rediscovering myself. It was also an attack on Ethan's ego. It showed him that he was not the center of my universe. It showed him that I cool. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in our home grew as tense as a pressure cooker about to explode. My spectacular return to work seemed to have ignited a cold war between me and Ethan. He dropped the pretense of gentleness and concern, replacing it with scrutiny, criticism, and meanwhile, the seeds of doubt I had planted in William's mind had begun to. As Will's suspicion grew, the pressure on Ethan and Chloe Mao. One evening, as I was working late in my study, I received an urgent email from Vanessa. "Maya, call me now. Something extremely serious has happened." I quickly called her back. Vanessa's voice on the other end was strained. The PIs just sent the latest recording. I listened to it and my blood ran cold. "You have to hear this." Vanessa sent me an audio file. "Will, he knows." Chloe's voice trembled, on the verge of tears. "Yesterday he asked me about the new Rolex watch. I told him a friend gave it to me, but he didn't believe me. He said he's going to have it investigated. Oh God, Ethan, what do we do? If my father finds out, he'll kill us both." "I know, just stop crying." Ethan snapped, though his What solution? "Will is already suspicious. It's only a matter of time before he finds out everything. There's only one way." Ethan was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again. His voice had turned so cold and ruthless it made me shudder. "We have to make it so he can't investigate anymore." "What do you mean?" Chloe stammered. "An accident," Ethan said, enunciating each word. "A small accident. Just enough to put him in the hospital for a while. Or better, why?" "But isn't that too dangerous?" Chloe hesitated. "There's no other way, Chloe," Ethan persuaded. "This is the only way we can be together. Think about it. Once Will is out of the picture for a while, I'll have an excuse to divorce Maya. You'll have a reason to leave Will. Everyone will just think you're depressed, because your husband—" I ripped off my headphones, my entire body ice cold. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. They didn't just want to deceive and steal. They were planning to harm someone, to harm their best friend. their loving and trusting husband. This was no longer selfishness, it was a crime. Their wickedness had crossed every line of human decency. I trembled, not with fear, but with rage. I had once thought that simply exposing them and making tea. I immediately sent the recording to Vanessa. "Do you see?" I said. "They're animals." "I know." Vanessa's voice was filled with contempt. "We can't let this happen. We have to act before they do, but we can't go to the police right away. This is just a conspiracy. There's no concrete action yet, so it would be hard to get a conviction. Plus, it would tip them off." "So what do we do?" I asked, my heart racing. "I have a plan," Vanessa said after a moment, her voice laced with mystery. "You said you wanted to tell William the truth at the right time, right? I think that time has come, and the stage to announce that truth is already set." "What stage?" "Their company's 10-year anniversary gala is this weekend. It's the biggest event of the year. The entire leadership team, partners, and Mr. Sterling will be there. Can you think of a more spectacular stage to expose a pair of adulterers and criminal laver?" Vanessa's words stunned me. It was a bold, dramatic, and ruthless plan, but it was the only way. I took a deep breath. Okay, let's do it. The war had reached its final act, and this time, I wouldn't just be fighting for my own justice, I would be fighting for William's as well. The velvet curtain on the final performance was about to rise. The company's 10-year anniversary gala was the event Ethan had been looking forward to and preparing for over the past few months. He saw it as the stage to solidify his position. After finalizing the plan with Vanessa, I knew I couldn't act alone. I called Mr. Sterling's secretary and requested a private meeting, citing a matter of extreme importance concerning William's safety and the future of the corporation. At the mention of William's name, they agreed immediately. The meeting was scheduled for that very afternoon. I arrived early and chose a discreet corner, my heart beating a little fast. Facing a man as powerful and shrewd as Mr. Sterling was not easy. I didn't know how he would react. Would he believe me? Or would he think I was fabricating a story to get revenge on my husband? A short while later, Mr. Sterling arrived. He maintained his usual calm and dignified demeanor, but I could see a hint of worry in his eyes. He sat down without a word, simply gesturing for me to begin. I did. Mr. Sterling put on his reading glasses and pressed play. The room fell silent, filled only with the panicked, fearful, and ultimately venomous voices of Ethan and Chloe. As he listened, Mr. Sterling's face grew darker and darker. His hand on the table clenched into a fist, the veins on. Finally, he opened his eyes and looked at me. The calmness was gone, replaced by a burning fire. "They dare," he ground out, his voice hoarse with anger. "They dare to touch my son." "I'm sorry you had to hear this, sir," I said sincerely, "but I had no other choice. I can't let William be harmed." "You did the right thing, Maya." Mr. Sterling looked at me, his gaze softening with appreciation and a touch of remorse. "It is our fault for being too trusting. I apologize to you for the pain you have had to endure." "My personal pain is not important anymore, sir," I shook my head. "The most important thing now is to stop their plan and make them pay." "Absolutely," Mr. Sterling declared. "I will never forgive those who would harm my son. What is your plan?" This was the moment I had been waiting for. I laid out the ant. "A very bold plan," he said after I finished. "But I like it. They want a stage to shine? We will give them a stage to be judged. I will cooperate with you. That night, I will be the one to give him his special gift." We sat together and worked out the finer details of every step, every role. With his experience and power, Mr. Sterling perfected my plan, making it airtight. Everything was set. Security, the technical crew, even the event's MC would be part of our arrangement. Ethan and Chloe, two pitiful moths, were eagerly flying towards a flame, oblivious to the fact that we had lit it ourselves. In the days leading up to the gala, I continued to play the part of a wife trying to reconcile. I was no longer cold to Ethan. Instead, I was gentle and attentive. I helped him pick out his suit for the event, ironing every crease. I even told him I would step back from the Miami project to spend more time on our family. My change in attitude made Ethan ecstatic and arrogant. He thought I had finally learned my place, that he had me completely under his control. He didn't know it was all an act. The more docile I appeared, the more painful his fall would be. The night before the event, I stood on the balcony, looking out at the glittering city lights. I felt strangely calm. There was no more suspense or anxiety. Everything was in place. Tomorrow, it would all end. Tomorrow, justice would be served, and I would be there to witness the downfall of those who had caused so much pain. On the day of the anniversary gala, the entire company seemed to have put on its finest attire. The 5-star hotel ball. I glanced around. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Vanessa, posing as a business partner, was already seated at a table near the stage, accompanied by a few of her lawyer colleagues. They weren't just here for a party, they were here to be witnesses. The hotel's security team had been replaced by Mr. Sterling's men, ensuring no one could cause a disruption or escape when the curtain fell. The tech crew was on standby, waiting for the signal. I saw William and Chloe arrive. Will still looked sad, but he managed to maintain a composed facade. As for Chloe, she was wearing a stunning, fiery red evening gown that hugged her curves. She walked beside Will, but her eyes kept darting towards Ethan, filled with anticipation and hidden meaning. She had no idea that her beautiful red dress was about to beckon. The party began. After the opening speeches from the executives, the atmosphere livened up with soft music and glasses of fine wine. People mingled, chatted, and toasted one another. Ethan and I sat at the same table as Will, Chloe, and Mr. Sterling. The mood at our table was bizarrely tense. Mr. Sterling maintained a calm expression, occasionally raising his glass for a polite toast. Will was quiet and withdrawn. Ethan and Chloe, despite sitting apart, couldn't hide. Ethan, Mr. Sterling suddenly spoke, breaking the suffocating silence. "I trust you've prep." "Yes, sir, I have it all prepared," Ethan replied eagerly, a look of relief on his face. He thought this was a sign that Mr. Sterling still trusted him. "Good," Mr. Sterling nodded. "After your speech, I have a special gift for you, as a reward for your contributions over the years." "Thank you so much, sir." Ethan was beaming. He turned to me and gave a triumphant wink. He had no idea that the gift he was about to receive would be the most bitter of his life. Finally, the main event of the evening arrived. The MC, a beautiful host we had arranged, spoke in a formal tone. "And now, please give a warm welcome to the stage to Mr. Ethan Carter, Head of Business Development, one of the outstanding individuals who has contributed to our company's success over the years, to deliver his address." A round of applause erupted. Ethan walked onto the stage, full of confidence and pride. He stood at the podium, cleared his throat, and began his... He concluded his speech to an even louder round of applause. He bowed, smiling with deep satisfaction. He thought he had succeeded, that the director's chair was his. He had no idea that this was the exact moment the velvet curtain would rise on his downfall. According to the script, the MC should have come out to praise his speech and invite Mr. Sterling up to present the special gift. But no. Instead of celebratory music, the entire ballroom was plunged into darkness. All the lights went out, except for a single harsh spotlight aimed directly at Ethan, blinding him. He stood there, stunned. Then, on the giant LED screen behind him, a screen meant to display the company logo, a video began to play. There was no sound, and the image was a bit shaky and dim, but it was clear enough for everyone present to recognize the two main characters. It was the video I had recorded on that fateful night. The scene of Ethan and Chloe in the throes of passion inside his car was displayed in high definition for hundreds of pairs of eyes to see. The entire ballroom fell silent. The most distinguished guests, the serving staff, everyone was frozen. The soft music had died, replaced by a deafening silence, broken only by shocked gasps. Hundreds of pairs of eyes were glued to the giant screen where the most explicit tragedy was unfolding. On stage, Ethan stood like a statue, the smug smile on his face frozen, and then slowly contorting into a mask of horror. The spotlight illuminated his face, showing Eve. In the audience, Chloe fared no better. Her vibrant red dress now seemed like a garish bloodstain, a mocking contrast to her deathly pale face. The wine glass in her hand slipped and shattered on the marble floor, just like the lavish life she was about to lose. She buried her face in her hands, trembling uncontrollably, not daring to look up and face the curious, contemptuous stares directed at her. But the most devastated person was surely William. He sat motionless in his chair, his eyes fixed on the screen. I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I could see his shoulders shaking. The video ended, but the screen did not go dark. Instead, it switched to a slideshow of other images, candid photos of Ethan and Chloe on dates at a bar, kissing in a parking garage, entering a hotel together. Each photo was an irrefutable piece of evidence, a resounding slap in the face to the two sinners. Then the screen changed again. This time, it displayed financial documents, contracts, and bank statements, all enlarged, with suspicious transactions circled in red. Evidence of Ethan's embezzlement, his abuse of power for personal gain. Everything was laid out in clear, damning detail. The room gasped again. This was no longer just a love scandal. It had escalated into a serious white-collar crime. Finally, while everyone was at this point, no one could remain seated. The silence was broken by whispers and murmurs, which grew into shouts of outrage and disgust. Scumbag! Inhuman monster! Someone call the police! The atmosphere descended into chaos. The ballroom lights suddenly flashed back on. Everyone shot to their feet, their eyes filled with fury, all directed at Ethan and Chloe. Ethan, after being frozen in shock, finally snapped out of it, but instead of remorse, his survival instinct made him frantic. "No, it's not true. It's all fake. Someone framed me," he screamed, his voice cracking. He pointed at the screen, then gestured wildly at the crowd, like a cornered animal searching for its attacker. "Who did this? Who is it? Show yourself." Just then, Mr. Sterling, who had been sitting silently and observing the entire time, slowly stood up. He said nothing, simply picked up his wine glass, and walked calmly onto the stage. All eyes turned to him. His presence instantly quieted the chaotic room. He walked over to Ethan, who was still screaming desperately. He didn't look at him. He looked out at the audience, his voice low. "Ladies and gentlemen, I, Jonathan Sterling, as the chairman and largest investor of this company, sincerely apologize for allowing such a shameful incident to occur here tonight." He paused, then turned to look directly at Ethan, his eyes as cold as ice. "Mr. Carter, you asked who did this, did you not? It was me." His words were like a thunderclap, leaving Ethan stunned. "And the person who showed me your—" It was only then that everyone turned to look at me. I stood up calmly, meeting hundreds of gazes. I was not afraid, not hiding. I had done the right thing. The party was over, and it was time for the guilty to face their judgment. All eyes in the ballroom were on me. There was surprise, curiosity, and even admiration. I stood the P.S. On stage, Ethan looked from me to Mr. Sterling, his expression shifting from shock and horror to pure, unadulterated hatred. He finally understood. He had walked into a trap, one set by the very people he had deceived. "Why? Why would you two do this to me?" he roared, his voice filled with venom. "You. Why?" Mr. Sterling didn't even grant him a glance. He took the microphone, his voice clear and authoritative, each word a final verdict. "As of this moment, Ethan Carter is terminated from all positions at this company. All evidence of his embezzlement, fraud, and Mr. Sterling's declaration was like a second bombshell, completely obliterating the company's future. The room erupted once more. Withdrawing capital meant bankruptcy. Everything they had built over the last 10 years was now turning to dust. While all attention was on Ethan, another tragedy was unfolding in the audience. William, after sitting frozen for so long, finally stood up. He didn't look at Ethan or his father. He walked straight to Chloe, who was still huddled in her chair, her face buried in her hands. He stood before her. "See." Chloe slowly lifted her head, her beautiful eyes now swollen and filled with tears and terror. "Will, I'm sorry," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Will didn't respond. He just quietly slipped the wedding ring from his finger and gently placed it on the table in front of her. It was a decisive, cold action, without a single word of blame but more painful than 1,000 curses. It was the end, a complete and taut. Chloe watched Will's retreating back, then looked at the ring. The gala ended in chaos. Guests hurried to leave, wanting no part in the rest of the tragedy. Only the company's employees remained, standing stunned and bewildered, facing a bleak future. Ethan was escorted out by security, still screaming curses at me. Chloe sat weeping hysterically in the middle of the empty ballroom, with no. I didn't stay. Along with Vanessa and Mr. Sterling, I left quietly through a private exit. Stepping outside into the fresh night air, I felt an immense sense of relief. The heavy burden I had carried for so long was finally lifted. "You did very well," Mr. Sterling said to me, his voice calm again. "You showed me what true strength is." "It was what I had to do, sir," I replied. "So, what's next for you?" "A divorce. And a new beginning," I said, my voice full of confidence. I looked up at the storm passed, leaving a wondrous, but I paid no mind to the gossip. I focused on what needed to be done. Second was the legal matter. True to Mr. Sterling's word, the entire file of evidence on Ethan's embezzlement and criminal plot was handed over to the police. A formal investigation was launched. With clear evidence and pressure from Mr. Sterling, Ethan had no way out. He was arrested and held in custody shortly after. From a future project director and a rising star, he became a criminal defendant in a matter of days, facing a long prison sentence. It was the price he had to pay for his greed and wickedness. The company where Ethan worked, after Sterling Industries pulled its funding, fell into a severe crisis and quickly declared bankruptcy. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs. A decade of work, all gone, because of the moral bankruptcy of one individual. As for Chloe, her life became its own kind of hell. After being definitively cast out by William, she was thrown out of the family home. Her own parents, shamed by her actions, disowned her. From a socialite living in luxury, admired by all, she lost everything in an instant: her husband, her family, her honor, and her wealth. I heard she had to rent a small room in a rundown part of town, struggling to get by. The designer bags and luxury items she once flaunted were likely sold off to cover her living expenses. People occasionally saw her lurking near William's neighborhood, crying and begging to see him, but that gate was forever closed to her. Late-stage remorse could never erase the sins she had committed. I no longer concerned myself with their fates. I purged my home, throwing out everything that reminded me of Ethan. I repainted the bedroom and bought new linens. I wanted to wash away every stain of his betrayal. I threw myself back into my work with a renewed focus. The Miami project was a huge challenge, but also a golden opportunity to prove myself. I buried myself in work, using the busyness to forget the past. My talent and creativity were quickly recognized. I rediscovered the joy and passion I had forgotten for 5 long years. One afternoon, while I was on site at the construction project in Miami, William called me. He sounded much better, his voice no longer laced with despair. "Maya, where are you?" "I'm in Miami working on a new project," I replied. "That's great, keep it up." He paused for a moment, then said, "I'm calling to thank you again, and also to apologize." "Apologize? What for?" I asked, surprised. "I'm sorry I didn't see the truth sooner. Sorry I let you endure that all by yourself. If I had been more observant, maybe you wouldn't have had to go through all that." "It's okay, Will," I smiled. "It's all in the past. We're both free now. That's what's important." "Yeah, free," he repeated. "I'm about to go traveling for a while, need to sort things out. When I get back, let's grab coffee." "Definitely. Have a wonderful trip." The short conversation warmed my heart. I knew Will would be okay. He was a strong and kind man. He deserved a much happier life. I stood on the top floor of the half-finished building, looking out at the sparkling blue of the Atlantic Ocean. The sea breeze was strong, carrying the salty tang of the water. I closed my eyes, spread my arms wide, and felt the freedom and peace seep into every part of my being. The past was behind me. My future was right in front of me, as vast and bright as the ocean itself. The price of betrayal was ruin and decay, but the reward for strength was rebirth and a new beginning. A year flew by in the blink of an eye. My life had turned a new page, one more vibrant and colorful than I had ever imagined. The resort complex in Miami was a resounding success. The building I had designed won a prestigious architectural award, becoming a new landmark for the city. My name, Maya Vance, was once again established in the architectural world, not as someone's wife, but on the strength of my own talent and merit. After that success, I didn't move back to New York. I decided to stay in Miami, this beautiful and dynamic coastal city. I founded my own architectural firm, naming it Tomorrow Architects. Tomorrow, representing a new beginning. My firm started small, with just a few young, enthusiastic employees. But with the reputation from the last project and the connections I had built, we quickly landed major contracts. We didn't chase quantity, we focused on quality, on creating works of art that were sustainable and environmentally conscious. That philosophy helped Tomorrow Architects carve out a unique niche and grow steadily. I was no longer the woman who existed only in the kitchen, living for her husband's success. I was now a true businesswoman, independent, self-sufficient, and powerful. My days were filled with meetings, business trips, and project presentations, but I never felt tired. I found joy and meaning in my work. Every building that went up, every living space created, was a part of me, a confirmation of my own value. Occasionally, I would hear news of the people from my past. Ethan received a 7-year prison sentence for embezzlement and conspiracy. It was a fitting end for his crimes. I never thought about him anymore. To me, he was just a bad dream that was over. Chloe, after a period of struggling, reportedly left New York for some unknown place to start over. I didn't know if she ever truly felt remorse, but I no longer cared. Everyone has to take responsibility for their own choices. William returned from his long travels, looking happy and full of life again. He didn't go back to managing the family business, instead dedicating his time to philanthropy and community-focused startups. We still kept in touch occasionally, as good friends. The emotional scars were probably still there, but both he and I had learned how to move on. One weekend evening, I stood on the balcony of my new penthouse apartment, looking down at the beach glittering in the sunset. I had designed the home myself. Every corner was a product of my passion and care. The sea breeze blew gently through my hair. I sipped my tea, feeling an absolute sense of peace and serenity. My phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Hey, boss lady, not taking a break even on the weekend? Come have a drink with me." I laughed. "When did you get to Miami?" "Just landed. In town for work, figured I'd visit my newly empowered friend." "Same place as last time?" "We met at a rooftop bar with a panoramic view of the city at night." "Look at you," Vanessa said, sizing me up. "You carry yourself completely differently." "It's true what they say. A woman is most beautiful when she belongs to no one." "You're just a smooth talker," I laughed. "How have you been?" "Same old. Fighting for justice for the sisterhood, one case at a time," she shrugged. "Oh, I ran into William the other day. He looks great, really happy. He asked about you." "So, what's the deal with you two now?" "Just good friends," I replied. "I'm not thinking about that right now. The greatest loves in my life are my work and my freedom." We raised our glasses, looking out at the sparkling lights below. "Do you ever regret it?" Vanessa asked suddenly. "Regret marrying Ethan, sacrificing 5 years of your life?" I was silent for a moment, staring into my swirling drink. It would be a lie to say no. There were times I was filled with resentment, with regret, but not anymore. Without those years, without that betrayal, I wouldn't be the person I am today. It was an expensive lesson, one that taught me that I must first love and respect myself. It was true. From the ashes of a failed marriage, I had been reborn, as vibrant and strong as a phoenix. The past was closed. A bright future, a life that I controlled, was wide open before me. And I knew my journey was just beginning.